The shelter smelled like old blankets and wet fur. Ruby didn't flinch. She just walked in quietly, her rain-soaked hoodie clinging to her thin frame. The receptionist looked up, surprised. "Hi, sweetie. You lost?" Ruby shook her head. "I'm here to adopt a dog." The woman blinked. Ruby was small. Too small to sound that sure, but she handed over a clipboard anyway. "Fill this out? You with a parent?" "No," Ruby said, voice flat. "She's in the car." Out back, cages rattled and whined. Puppies barked for attention. Tails wagged. But Ruby didn't stop. She walked past the cute ones, past the ones that leapt against the gates. Her eyes scanned each cage carefully, and then she stopped. He was in the last corner. A large dog with a patchy coat, a limp in his hind leg, and a long scar down one side of his face. He didn't bark, didn't wag, just stared back with dull, hopeless eyes. Ruby knelt slowly, resting her palm on the wire gate. "Hey," she whispered, barely audible. "You look like me." Behind her, one of the staff walked over. "That one's trouble," he said, crossing his arms. "Bit 3 times before. No one wants him." Honestly, he should have been put down months ago. Ruby didn't move. "What's his name?" The man hesitated. "We call him Diesel, but he doesn't really answer to anything." "I'm taking him," Ruby said. "You sure about that?" "He's not a beginner's dog. You might want to look at." "No," she said, eyes still locked on the dogs. "Him." Outside, Ruby's mom was already honking the horn. The adoption process took longer than expected. The shelter hesitated, made calls, double-checked everything. Ruby stood still the entire time, her arms crossed, her shoes leaving puddles on the linoleum floor. When it was finally done, the man handed her the leash, shaking his head. "Good luck, kid." As the gate opened, the dog didn't move. "Come on," Ruby whispered. He didn't budge. She knelt, unafraid, and reached gently toward him. He flinched, but didn't bite. Her fingers touched the edge of his matted fur. "It's okay," she said. "I'm scared too." He stood, slowly, limped forward. And just like that, he followed. They got into the back seat together. Her mom glanced into the mirror, brows furrowed. "Ruby ... That's the dog you picked?" Ruby nodded. "He looks dangerous." "He's not," she whispered. "Just broken." They drove in silence. At home, the dog didn't explore. He just stood in the doorway, still as a shadow. Ruby led him gently toward the living room. "This is the couch. It's old. Mom says it smells like popcorn and tears." He didn't sit. She pointed to a small corner near the fireplace. "That can be your spot. I'll bring you a blanket." Still, he stood. She placed a water bowl beside him. Then a small metal dish filled with soft food. He stared at it, unmoving. "Please eat," she said softly. "You're safe now." He turned his head away. Her mom walked in from the kitchen, drying her hands. "He's not eating?" "No." "Maybe." "He's sick." "He's not sick," Ruby said. "He's just sad." The dog growled when her mom stepped closer. "Hey," her mom warned. He growled at me. "He doesn't like loud voices," Ruby said. "I wasn't loud." "You're always loud." Her mom sighed, holding her forehead. "Ruby, I don't know if this was a good idea." But Ruby didn't answer. She just sat on the floor, cross-legged, watching the dog. Minutes passed. Hours. Her mom gave up and went to bed. The rain outside had stopped, but the wind still howled against the windows. The dog, now curled but still tense, watched Ruby with one eye open. She began to talk. Not to him exactly, but more like to the room. "My dad left 3 years ago," she said softly. No note. "Just gone. Took his jacket but left his dog bowl." The dog blinked. "I waited every day for him to come back." Then I stopped waiting. Then I got mad. Then I got quiet. He lifted his head a little. I don't like school. I don't like noise. I like books and old movies. And dogs that don't bark too much. He shifted slightly, pressing his body closer to the blanket she'd laid down. I wanted a dog, she whispered. But not just any dog. One who wouldn't leave. The room was quiet except for the ticking of the clock and the soft, uneven sound of the dog breathing. I don't want to call you Diesel, she said after a moment. That's not your name. She leaned in, gently brushing her fingers along his paw. He didn't flinch this time. I think your name is Bandit. The dog's ears flicked. I used to imagine I had a dog named Bandit. He'd steal all the bad stuff from my life, the nightmares, the silence, the yelling. Bandit let out a small huff. Not a growl, just breath. Ruby smiled, just barely. We'll be okay, Bandit, you and me. And for the first time in days, he laid his head down, right beside her knee. Not fully trusting, but not afraid either. That was enough. Bandit didn't move much once the lights went out. Ruby lay on the couch, wrapped in a thin blanket, eyes wide open in the dark. She didn't sleep. Not really. She kept listening for breathing, for growling, for the shuffle of paws across the hardwood. But Bandit stayed in his corner, curled tightly, like he was trying to disappear. Around midnight, she heard it, a soft, low whine. Then a strange, broken howl like something trying to cry, but forgetting how. Ruby sat up slowly. Bandit? Another whimper. Not loud, not asking for help. More like a sound someone makes when they think no one's listening. She slid off the couch and sat near him, careful not to get too close. It's okay, she whispered. You don't have to be afraid. He didn't lift his head. She sat there for a long time, knees pulled to her chest, blanket around her shoulders. I get it, she said softly. It's hard. The crying stopped, but Bandit still didn't move. Ruby stayed with him anyway, her voice low and steady, like a bedtime story with no ending. When my dad left, I didn't know what to do. I used to wait on the porch with a flashlight. I thought maybe he just got lost or forgot where we lived. She glanced at Bandit. His eyes were open now, staring at the wall. I told my mom I was fine, but I wasn't. I stopped talking at school. My teachers called it selective mutism, big words for feeling too sad to speak. The wind outside pushed against the house again. Something creaked upstairs. Bandit flinched. Ruby didn't move. I hear those sounds too. They used to scare me. Now I just pretend they're ghosts passing through. Harmless ones. A few minutes passed. Then she noticed Bandit's tail twitched. Not wagging, just a flicker. But it was something. She reached out slowly and placed a folded towel near him. It's yours, she said, in case the blanket feels too heavy. Her mom's voice cut through the hallway. Ruby, are you still up? I'm fine, Mom, Ruby called back. Bandit's just scared. There was a pause. Then footsteps retreated. Ruby looked back at Bandit. She doesn't understand. She tries, but she's tired too. He blinked slowly. His ears twitched again, this time toward her. I used to tell stories to my stuffed animals. Want to hear? One? Still no response. But Ruby began anyway. Once there was a dog who lived in a junkyard. Everyone thought he was mean. But really, he just didn't trust anyone. One day, a girl walked by, and instead of running away, she sat down. Bandit shifted, his body slightly relaxing. The girl didn't ask him to fetch or sit or roll over. She just told him stories. Every day. Until one day, the dog sat beside her. Ruby smiled faintly. He never left her after that. Bandit let out a soft sigh, and to Ruby's surprise, his head dropped gently onto the towel. She didn't cheer. didn't reach to pet him. She just whispered, "Good boy." At 2 a.m., Ruby's eyelids began to droop. She laid down near the crate. Just outside it, the hardwood cold under her side. "You don't have to like me yet," she murmured. "Just don't disappear." Bandit didn't answer, but his breathing steadied. Ruby closed her eyes. Later, her mom found them Ruby asleep on the floor and Bandit watching over her like a silent guard. "He's still here?" her mom whispered. Bandit gave a low growl. Okay, she muttered. "I get it." She laid a blanket over Ruby and left them alone. The next morning, Ruby woke to the sound of nails on wood. Bandit was pacing. She sat up slowly. "Hey." He stopped, stared at her, then looked away. "You hungry?" No reaction. She brought over the food dish again. Set it down. Waited. Bandit sniffed it, then turned away. Her mom came in, yawning. "Still not eating?" Ruby shook her head. "I don't like this, Ruby. He just needs time. He bit someone before. He was scared." Her mom rubbed her forehead. "You're betting everything on a dog who might never love you back." Ruby didn't answer. She crouched beside Bandit again and whispered, "It's okay. I didn't think anyone would love me back either." Bandit looked at her then really looked. His eyes were tired, old. But in that moment, something shifted. Not trust, not yet, but recognition. He knew what it felt like to be given up on. That night, he didn't cry. He didn't eat. He didn't cuddle. But when Ruby sat near him to tell another story, he moved closer, just an inch. Barely enough to notice. But Ruby noticed, and she didn't stop talking. She talked about school, about the way kids laughed behind her back, about the way her mom stared at the wall during dinner, about the night she ripped up every photo of her dad, and for every word she spoke. Bandit inched closer. By midnight, his paw touched her foot. She whispered, "I won't give up on you. Promise." This time, he blinked. And stayed. If you feel connected to this story, please like, share, and let me know your city or country below. Ruby didn't expect anything to change overnight. But that morning, something was different. Bandit followed her. Not close, just a few steps behind. But it was the first time he didn't stay frozen in one corner. Ruby noticed it the moment. She turned around and saw him watching her in the kitchen doorway. "You want breakfast?" she asked softly. He didn't move, but his ears perked. She poured the food into his bowl and sat down on the floor a few feet away, pretending not to watch. Bandit stared at the bowl, then glanced at her, then back again. Seconds passed. Then, finally, he limped over and took one cautious bite. Ruby smiled. "That's it. Good boy." Her mom stepped in, drying her hands with a towel. "He's eating?" "Yeah," Ruby whispered. "First time." Her mom nodded, not smiling. "Let's just hope it lasts." Ruby reached out her hand, palm up. Bandit paused mid-bite and eyed her hand suspiciously. But he didn't growl. He sniffed her fingers, slowly, carefully. Then he licked them once. Ruby froze, afraid to ruin the moment. Her mom blinked. "Okay, that's new." Later that day, Ruby sat on the porch, sketching. Bandit wandered out, staying close to the door. He sniffed the air, then lay down beside her, still at a distance, but closer than before. She glanced at him. "You like the sun?" Bandit didn't answer, obviously, but his eyes closed halfway. She kept drawing birds, a tree. And then Bandit. Her pencil stopped moving when she heard footsteps. Mr. Clark, their next-door neighbor, stood at the edge of the lawn. His eyes narrowed. "That's the dog?" Ruby nodded. "He's too big for a girl your size," he muttered. "I hope your mom knows what she's doing." Bandit sat up slowly, growling low. Ruby placed a hand gently on his back. "It's okay, Bandit," Mr. Clark frowned. You better keep that thing muzzled. One wrong move and someone's calling animal control." He walked off without waiting for a reply. That night at dinner, Ruby's mom raised her voice. Not yelling, just frustration. "Ruby, you can't keep skipping your assignments. I got another email from your teacher today." "I did it," Ruby said quietly. "Then why didn't you turn it in?" "I forgot." "You're not even trying anymore," Bandit growled. Her mom froze. "Did your dog just growl at me?" "He's not my dog," Ruby snapped. "He's my friend." Her mom shook her head. "That's not how this works, Ruby. He can't be your protector every time we disagree. He's not protecting me from you. He's protecting me from yelling." Bandit stood up, stepped between them. Not aggressive, just present, solid. Watching her mom backed up slowly. "I'm going to bed," she said. Ruby crouched beside Bandit, arms around his neck. "Thank you," she whispered. Later that night, Ruby crept into the kitchen. She poured a glass of water, then noticed Bandit behind her again. "You following me now?" He didn't respond, just sat quietly, eyes soft. She placed the water down and crouched again. This time, Bandit leaned his head into her chest. It wasn't an accident, it was a choice. Ruby didn't say anything. She just wrapped her arms around him and held on. It happened fast. 1 minute. Ruby was sitting on the porch with Bandit, watching the clouds move. The next, the mailman walked up the driveway whistling, holding a small package. Bandit stood suddenly. Ruby noticed the change in his body. Tight, alert. "Bandit," she said softly. "It's okay." But something in Bandit's eyes shifted fear, not anger. The mailman reached the steps and smiled. "Morning. Got a delivery for," a growl. Then a flash. Bandit lunged. The man yelped and stumbled back, dropping the box. Bandit didn't attack hard, just a nip. But there was blood. A small gash on the man's forearm. "Hey, he bit me." The mailman cried out. Ruby grabbed Bandit's collar. "No, stop." Bandit backed up, breathing hard. His ears down, tail low. He looked confused, like he didn't even understand what he'd done. The mailman pulled out his phone, dialing. "You need to get that thing away from people." "I'm calling animal control." "Please don't," Ruby begged. He didn't mean to. He was just scared. But it was too late. The van pulled up 15 minutes later. 2 officers in dark uniforms stepped out, one holding a catch pole. Her mom came rushing out the front door. "What happened?" Ruby was crying. "Bandit bit someone, but it wasn't bad. He was just trying to protect me." The officer frowned. "He bit a government employee, ma'am. We don't get to decide how bad that is." "No," Ruby whispered. "No, you don't understand. He's not dangerous. He's just scared. He gets scared easily." The taller officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, is this the dog from the shelter downtown?" Her mom nodded slowly. "Yes," he sighed. "He has a file, 3 previous bites. This isn't small." "Please," Ruby said through sobs. "He didn't hurt anyone. He just panicked. We have to take him for evaluation." The officer replied, "Standard procedure." Bandit didn't resist when they slipped the leash around his neck. He didn't growl, didn't bark. He just looked at Ruby, and that broke her. "Bandit," she screamed. "Don't take him. Please don't take him." The officers led him toward the van. Bandit stopped once at the open door, looked back. His eyes met Ruby's. "Please," she whispered, running after them. "I need him. He needs me." The officer gently pushed her back. "I'm sorry, kid." The door slammed shut. The van pulled away, and Bandit was gone that night. Ruby sat by the empty crate, hugging his blanket. Her mom tried to sit beside her. "Ruby." "No," Ruby said. "You let them take him. I didn't have a choice." "You always say that. No choice, no time, No money. You never fight for anything." Her mom looked hurt. "I just didn't want you to get hurt." "Well, too late," Ruby whispered. "He was the only one who understood me." Her mom said nothing, just quietly left the room. The next day, Ruby called the shelter. They told her Bandit had been moved to quarantine. "He's under observation," the woman said. "You're not allowed to visit yet." "But I need to see him." "I'm sorry, honey. That's the rule." Ruby hung up and stared at her phone. Her hands were shaking. At school, she couldn't focus. At lunch, she sat alone, staring at the table. "Hey," a boy said, sliding into the seat across from her. "Where's the scary dog?" Ruby didn't answer. "He bite someone again?" He snickered. She stood up and walked away. When she got home, she went straight to the crate again. Empty. She ran her fingers over the metal bars. "I should have protected." "You," she whispered. Later that evening, her mom peeked into her room. "You need to eat something." Ruby shook her head. "I'm not hungry," her mom sighed. "I called the shelter. They said you can write him a letter if you want. They'll read it to him." Ruby sat up. "Really?" She nodded. "Do you want paper?" Ruby grabbed a pen before her mom could even leave. She began writing. "Dear Bandit, I'm sorry. I should have known the mailman would scare you. I should have said something sooner. I should have told you that not everyone is trying to hurt us." Her hand trembled as she wrote. "You're not a bad dog. You're not dangerous. You're just hurt, like me." She folded the letter and handed it to her mom. "Can you take it tomorrow?" "I will. Promise? I promise." That night, Ruby stared out the window until her eyes shut. In her dreams, Bandit was running, not scared, not limping. Just running toward her. And this time, no one stopped him. Bandit lay in a cold metal cage, surrounded by silence and the smell of disinfectant. The concrete floor beneath him felt like ice. Every sound, the clank of a mop bucket, the clang of a door, made his ears twitch. But he didn't growl. He didn't bark. He just waited, eyes dull, body still. The staff labeled him, aggressive, do not approach. A red tag hung on his gate. "He hasn't eaten," one worker said. "He's shut down," another replied. "Some dogs just give up." But not everyone believed that. Miguel, a new volunteer, stopped outside Bandit's cage with a bag of liver treats and a soft voice. "Hey, big guy," he said. "I heard what they're saying, but I don't think you're mean. Just scared." Bandit didn't lift his head. Miguel crouched. "I used to be scared too. Still am some days." No response. Miguel left the treat just outside the gate and walked away. By morning, it was gone. 3 days passed. Each day, Miguel returned. Same soft voice. Same story about how some people see you one way, but it doesn't mean they're right. Still, Bandit never moved while he was there. Until the 5th day. Miguel came by again and noticed something small. A shift in posture. Ears raised just slightly. That was enough to give him hope. Then came Ruby. She walked into the lobby holding a sock. It was clean, but clearly worn, soft, stretched at the heel. "I know I can't see him," she told the front desk woman, "but can you please give this to him?" "It smells like home," the woman sighed. "We usually don't allow, please," Ruby said. "He's scared and lonely." Miguel, overhearing, stepped in. "Let her," he said. "I'll take it back myself." The woman hesitated, then nodded. Miguel led Ruby to a side hallway near the kennels. "You can't go in," he said, "but you can talk. He's in the last cage." Ruby walked to the edge of the gate and stopped when she saw him. He looked smaller now, as if the weight of loneliness had shrunk him. "Bandit," she whispered. His ears twitched. "It's me. I brought your sock. You used to steal it from my laundry basket, remember?" He didn't lift his head. "I'm sorry," she said. "I couldn't stop them from taking you, but I didn't stop thinking about you. Not once. Miguel slowly opened the gate and placed the sock inside. Bandit sniffed it. Then he pressed his nose into it. Ruby's hand clutched the bars tighter. I've been reading stories to your crate at home, she whispered. Even if you're not there, I still read. Because maybe you'll hear it in your heart. Bandit stood slowly, carefully, and stepped closer to the gate. I miss you, Ruby said. Please don't give up. Bandit looked up, and their eyes met through the bars. It was only a second, but it was everything. Ruby pulled a folded drawing from her pocket and slid it under the gate. It was a picture of her and Bandit sitting in the grass, a big sun overhead. Hearts above their heads. This is for your wall, she whispered. Miguel picked it up and taped it on the outside of the cage. That night, Bandit didn't cry. He didn't sleep much either. But he rested his head on the sock. And for the first time in days, his tail thumped just once. By the next morning, he had eaten all his food. Ruby kept visiting. She sat outside the cage and read books out loud. Sometimes she whispered stories she made up herself, about dogs who weren't wanted and girls who didn't fit in, and how they saved each other. Miguel watched in silence. One afternoon, Ruby brought a small speaker. I made a playlist, she said. Songs we used to listen to while we drew together. She pressed play. The first song was slow and soft, the kind that wrapped around you like a blanket. Bandit stood up and came to the gate. Miguel's eyes widened. He's moving. He remembers, Ruby whispered. On day 12, the director called Ruby's mom. Ma'am, she said, your daughter's been coming in almost daily. Yes, I know, her mom replied. We've never seen a dog. Turn around like this. He's calmer. He's eating. He even let Miguel brush him. Her mom was silent for a moment. Then quietly, that's because she never gave up on him. The director cleared her throat. There'll be a hearing soon. We don't know what they'll decide, but whatever happens, your daughter gave that dog a reason to try. That evening, Ruby sat down beside the gate like always. I don't know what they'll say, she whispered, but I'm going to fight for you, even if no one else will. Bandit laid down close to the gate. Ruby reached her fingers through the bars, just a little, and this time he pressed his nose gently against them. No growl. No fear. Just trust. Courthouse smelled nothing like the shelter. It was too clean, too cold, and too quiet. Ruby stood just inside the front door, clutching Bandit's file in one hand and a folded drawing in the other. Her mom tried to take the papers. Let me do the talking, Ruby. Ruby shook her head. No, he's mine. I need to say it. Her mom frowned but didn't argue. They stepped inside the small meeting room where the hearing would be held. A long table sat at the center. 3 people sat behind it: animal control officers, a local vet, and a city board member, clipboards in hand, faces unreadable. One officer nodded. Let's begin. The director from the shelter was the first to speak. Bandit was taken into custody after a bite incident involving a mail carrier. However, since being placed in quarantine, his behavior has improved significantly. The board member leaned forward. He has a history. 3 previous bites before this? Yes, the director said, but the circumstances were different. He was in a chaotic environment. Another officer spoke. And this girl? She's the one who adopted him recently? All eyes turned to Ruby. She stood up slowly. The papers. In her hands trembled. My name is Ruby, she said softly. I'm 12. I adopted Bandit because I saw something in him that I saw in myself. Please explain, one of them said. Ruby took a deep breath. When my dad left, I got really quiet. I stopped talking at school. I stopped smiling. I felt like I didn't matter, like people gave up on me. She looked at the drawing Bandit lying in her lap and placed it on the table. Then I saw Bandit. He didn't bark. He didn't wag. He just looked done, like he was waiting for someone to notice he was still alive. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. He didn't bite out of anger. He bit because he thought I was in danger. He was scared, and when they took him, he gave up again. The room was silent. I visited him every day, she continued. I read to him. I brought his favorite sock. I watched him come back to life, piece by piece. An officer frowned. That may be, but public safety is still our concern. Ruby nodded. I understand. That's why I'm willing to do anything. I'll muzzle him in public. I'll go to training classes. I'll follow every rule. But please, don't take him away forever. A woman in the back of the room stood up. Gray hair, wrinkled hands. I live next door to them, she said. I used to see that girl sit on the porch every night crying. Since she got that dog, she doesn't cry anymore. She walks him. She talks to him. That dog healed her. The board glanced at each other. The mailman entered next, his arm in a sling. I know what he did, he said. But I was the one who walked up too fast. The girl was on the steps. I didn't see the dog until the last second. He looked at Ruby. I don't think he meant to hurt me. He was protecting her. Ruby's mom finally stepped forward. I wasn't on board with this at first, she admitted. But I've watched this dog change my daughter. I've seen the difference. Another person stood up. Miguel. I've worked with dogs for years, he said. Some take months. Some don't change at all. But this one bandit, he changed. Fast, because of her. He nodded at Ruby. She's not just a kid. She's his reason. Silence again. Then one of the board members spoke. This dog has a history, and the law is the law. But we've seen cases before where change is possible. He looked at Ruby. We will allow Bandit to return home. Under strict conditions, muzzle in public. Professional training sessions, monthly check-ins. One more incident, and we won't be able to intervene. Ruby's eyes widened. He can come home? Yes, the woman confirmed. But you need to earn that trust, both of you. Ruby nodded fast. We will, I swear. They dismissed the room. Outside, Ruby grabbed her mom's hand. Do you think he knows? Her mom squeezed it gently. He will. The next day, Ruby returned to the shelter with Miguel. The same door, the same hallway. When she reached his kennel, Bandit stood immediately, his ears lifted. His tail moved. He didn't bark. He just waited. The moment the gate opened, he walked straight to her and pressed his head against her chest. Ruby dropped to her knees. I told you I'd come, she whispered, tears streaming. You waited, Bandit. Licked her cheek and let out a long, low breath, as if the weight of every moment had finally left him. Miguel smiled. Told you he wasn't done. Ruby nodded, still hugging Bandit. No, she whispered. He's just beginning. Bandit stepped through the front door like he'd never left. But Ruby could tell he was different now. Softer somehow, but also guarded. He walked with caution, every step measured. Ruby unhooked his leash and bent down. You're home, Bandit. He sniffed the familiar corners, the old blanket, the empty crate. Then he walked straight to the spot by the fireplace and laid down with a quiet sigh. Her mom stood in the kitchen, watching. Remember the conditions, she reminded. I do, Ruby said. He's not going outside without a muzzle. I signed up for the training already. The next morning, Ruby clipped on Bandit's new harness and gently adjusted the black muzzle. Over his snout, he didn't like it. His body stiffened, and he whined softly. I know, Ruby whispered. I don't like it either. She took him for a walk around the block. Neighbors stared. Some whispered. One woman even crossed the street with her small dog when she saw them coming. Ruby held her head high. It's just us, she told Bandit. Let them look. They reached the park. She found an empty bench near the trees and sat down. Bandit laid at her feet, tense but quiet. A small boy approached. "Can I pet him?" Ruby shook her head gently. "He's still learning. He gets scared." "Oh," the boy said. "He looks sad." Ruby nodded. "He's been through a lot. Like you?" She looked at the boy, surprised. "What do you mean?" "My mom says you're the girl who talks to dogs instead of people." Ruby smiled faintly. "I guess I am." He sat on the grass nearby. "That's okay. Dogs are better." Ruby chuckled. "Yeah, they don't lie." Training started that weekend. The trainer's name was Miss Carroll. She had silver hair, strong arms, and eyes that noticed everything. "Bandit?" she said, looking him over. "He's the one with the bike case?" Ruby nodded. "But he's trying." Miss Carroll crouched low, holding out her hand. Bandit didn't move. "No rush," she said. We let him set the pace. Week by week, Bandit learned. Sit, stay, leave it. It wasn't perfect. He still flinched at loud noises. He still growled when strangers moved too fast, but there was progress. "He's special," Miss Carroll said one day. "He's not aggressive. He's protective. He reads your emotions like a mirror." Ruby looked at Bandit, who was sitting calmly beside her. "He always knows when I'm not okay." "Some dogs are like that," Carol said. "They carry what we can't." Ruby looked down. "Sometimes I wish he didn't have to," Carol smiled. "Then carry some of it for him." But not everyone supported them. One morning, Ruby found a note taped to their front gate. "That dog's a danger. Get rid of him before someone else gets hurt." She crumpled it in her fist. Bandit sniffed the gate and growled low. "They don't know you," Ruby said. "They never tried to." Another day, Mr. Clark caught them outside. "I heard you're walking him at the park again," he said. Ruby nodded. "Yes, sir. You keep him muzzled?" "Yes. You think a muzzle makes him safe?" "No," Ruby said firmly. "Love does. Training does. Time does." He shook his head and walked away. Ruby sighed. "One day, they'll see." Back at home, she sat with Bandit and pulled out her sketchbook. She drew him sitting in the sun, a gentle look in his eyes. No muzzle. She handed it to her mom later that night. "This is how I see him." Her mom stared at the picture. "He looks peaceful." "He is, with me." Her mom nodded slowly. "I see it now." Ruby leaned against her shoulder. "Thanks for letting him come home." "I should have believed you sooner." Bandit walked over, resting his head in Ruby's lap. She stroked his ears. "You're safe now, Bandit. We both are." The doorbell rang. Bandit didn't bark. He looked up, alert but calm. Ruby stood and walked to the door. It was Miss Carroll. "I wanted to drop something off," she said, handing over a small certificate. Ruby read it out loud. "Graduation, Obedience Program, Bandit." "He passed," Carol smiled. "With flying colors," Ruby beamed. "You did it, boy." Carol added, "You both did." Ruby taped the certificate to the fridge, right next to her old report card. That night, she and Bandit sat outside under the stars. No leash. "Just quiet. I think we're okay now," she whispered. "I think we're really okay." Bandit rested his head on her foot and closed his eyes. And for the first time since he came home, he slept without twitching. Without fear. Just peace. It started with shouting. Ruby was sketching in the backyard when she heard the yelling coming from 2 houses over. She stood up fast. Bandit barked once, sensing something wrong. Her mom opened the door. "Ruby, stay inside," but Ruby didn't listen. She ran toward the noise, Bandit at her side on his leash. Mr. Connors, the chicken farmer at the end of the road, was waving his arms. "Someone broke into my coop last night, killed 2 hens." Ruby blinked. "What happened?" Mr. Connors turned sharply. "You tell me. That mutt of yours was howling around midnight." Her mom caught up, out of breath. "Excuse me?" "He's the only big dog around here," Mr. Connors shouted. "I found paw prints and fur caught on the fence." Ruby stepped forward. "Bandit was in my room last night. The whole night." "Sure he was," the man scoffed. "He's already got a record." "What's one more?" Bandit growled. Ruby tightened the leash. "Don't," she whispered to him. Mr. Connors raised his phone. "I've already reported it. Animal control. We'll be here by the end of the day." "No," Ruby said, voice shaking. "He didn't do it." "We'll see," he snapped and stormed off. Back inside, Ruby paced the living room. "This isn't fair," she cried. "He didn't even leave my room." Her mom rubbed her temples. "We know that. But they won't take your word." "Not with Bandit's history." "I'm not letting them take him again," Ruby said. "Not this time." She stormed into her room, grabbed a flashlight and a notebook. "Where are you going?" Her mom asked, to prove he didn't do it. She started at Mr. Connors' co-op. The wooden door was broken on one side. Feathers scattered everywhere. There were paw prints in the mud, big ones, but Ruby noticed something strange. They didn't match Bandit's limp dot. She traced the prints past the coop, through the woods. Bandit's were uneven. These were steady, balanced. Then she found fur cut. On the bottom of the fence. It was white. Bandit's fur was dark brown. She pocketed the evidence. Deeper into the woods, she found more tracks and something else. A torn collar, dirty and worn with faded lettering. It read, Ranger. Ruby froze. "You're not Bandit," she whispered. "You're someone else." The next morning, animal control arrived. "Where's the dog?" One officer asked. Ruby stood in front of the porch. "Before you do anything, I have proof." The officers exchanged a look. "You're 12. I can still be right," she snapped. "Come with me." They followed her to the coop. She pointed out the straight paw prints, the fur sample, the broken fence. "Bandit's prints are uneven," she explained. "His back leg drags, these don't, and this fur isn't his." She handed them the white tufts. One officer raised an eyebrow. "This is actually helpful, and I found a collar," Ruby added. "It says Ranger." The officer nodded. "We'll look into it." Mr. Connors came outside, angry. "You better be taking that dog today." "We're investigating further," the officer said. "What does that mean?" "It means we're not seizing him without proof." Ruby clutched Bandit's leash tighter. That night, Ruby sat on the floor beside Bandit. "I told them," she whispered. "I'm not losing you." Bandit rested his head on her lap, but Ruby couldn't sleep. Something still felt wrong. So she went back into the woods the next morning. She walked deeper than before, following the direction the tracks had gone. After nearly an hour, she spotted movement near an old shed. A white dog. Large, lean, with one torn ear. He looked at her and didn't run. "Your Ranger," she whispered. He stared back, wild but not angry. Ruby held out a piece of bread. He sniffed the air but didn't move closer. She sat down slowly and placed the food near her feet. "You were trying to survive," she said, "just like Bandit." After a few minutes, Ranger stepped forward, took the bread, and vanished into the fen trees. Ruby smiled. She had her answer. The wrong dog had been blamed. Again. Ruby didn't wait. The moment she got home, she pulled up her mom's laptop and inserted the flash drive she'd borrowed from school. On it was the trail camera footage from the woods, a recording she'd begged the science teacher to help her set up 2 days ago. She clicked play. There he was, the white dog with the torn ear, Ranger, clear as day, creeping through the trees and hopping the broken fence into Mr. Connors' chicken coop. Bandit wasn't even in the frame. Ruby nearly cried with relief. She grabbed the flash drive, stuffed it into her pocket, and called Miss Carroll. "Can you come with me to the shelter?" she asked. Please. I need someone to back me up. What's going on? Miss Carroll asked. I have proof Bandit was innocent. I just need someone they'll actually listen to. Miss Carroll didn't hesitate. I'll pick you up in 10. At the shelter, Ruby walked into the lobby with her head high, Miss Carroll beside her. The front desk clerk raised an eyebrow. Can I help you? I need to speak to someone in charge, Ruby said. It's about the accusation against Bandit. 10 minutes later, they sat with the shelter director and one of the animal control officers from before. Ruby plugged in the flash drive and clicked play. They watched the footage in silence. The officer leaned forward. That's not Bandit. I told you, Ruby said. That dog's name is Ranger. He's the one who broke into the coop. And the fur? The director asked. White, not Bandit's. The officer sighed. Well, this changes everything. Miss Carroll added, Bandit deserves to have this cleared officially. There's no reason for that strike to stay on his file. The director nodded. I'll make the call to animal control. It'll be removed. Ruby's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Back at home, she updated the certificate on the Favini fridge, taping a gold star above it with the words cleared written in red ink. Her mom walked into the kitchen. You did it? Ruby nodded. I proved it. That evening, news spread fast. The local paper picked up the story. Young girl clears dog's name after false accusation. Bandit became a quiet sort of legend. Some people even started stopping Ruby on the street. Is that the dog? They'd ask. She'd nod. One woman whispered, He's so calm. You'd never know. But not everyone admitted they were wrong. Mr. Connors didn't say a word, just watched her every time she passed. Ruby didn't need his apology. She had the truth and Bandit. A few days later, Ruby returned to the woods with a small bowl of food. She left it by the shed and whispered, It's okay, Ranger. I know you were just trying to survive, too. She never saw him again. But the food disappeared every night. Back home, Ruby laid beside Bandit on the floor. Guess we're not the worst anymore, she whispered. Bandit gave a soft huff and nudged her arm. She laughed for the first time in weeks. Not a quiet laugh, a real one. The story reached more than just the local paper. A week after the article was published, Ruby got a call from a woman with a cheerful voice. Hi. I'm Dana from Channel 6. We'd love to do a story on you and your dog, Bandit. Ruby looked at her mom, stunned. Us? Absolutely. We think your story could inspire others. Her mom agreed, and 2 days later, a news van pulled up. In front of their house, the reporter stepped out with a cameraman and smiled. You must be Ruby. Ruby nodded, holding Bandit's leash tightly. And this is the famous Bandit, Dana said, crouching down carefully. Hi, buddy. Bandit didn't growl. He didn't back away. He just looked at her, calm and steady. They filmed in the living room, then out on the porch. What made you choose him? Dana asked. Ruby smiled. He looked like I felt. Dana blinked. What do you mean? He looked like someone gave up on him. I knew what that felt like. The Bandit lay at Ruby's feet during the interview, head resting on her shoe. When the segment aired, people responded in ways Ruby never expected. Strangers began sending letters, some with drawings, others with photos of their own rescue dogs. One note read, Thank you for reminding us that broken doesn't mean bad. The shelter invited Ruby and Bandit to speak at their next adoption event. Miss Carroll handed Ruby a small vest for Bandit. It read, Emotional support DOG, do not pet. Without asking, he's earned it, Carroll said. At the event, Bandit stayed close to Ruby's side. Kids gathered in a circle while she told their story, how Bandit didn't trust anyone at first, how he changed, and how people changed too. One boy, no older than 8, raised his hand. Was he ever scary? Ruby thought for a moment. Only when he was scared himself. Bandit sniffed the boy's hand when he held it out slowly. He likes you, Ruby said. The boy smiled wide. After that day, they began visiting schools. Ruby wasn't much of a speaker, but Bandit helped. When words failed her, his calm presence filled the silence. In one class, a girl whispered, "He's like me." "I don't talk much either." Ruby handed her a sketchbook. "You can draw him if you want." She did. Everywhere they went, people stopped seeing Bandit as the dog with a record. They saw him as Ruby's hero. One afternoon, they walked past Mr. Clark's house. He was fixing his mailbox, grumbling to himself. He looked up, then down at Bandit. "Still walking that dog?" Ruby nodded. "Every day." He paused. "Doesn't bark like he used to." "He doesn't need to anymore." Mr. Clark muttered something under his breath, then added, "Looks like he turned out all right." Ruby smiled. "He always was." Back home, Ruby took off Bandit's vest and sat beside him on the floor. "We're doing it," she whispered. "People see you. Now not just the scar. Not the record. You." Bandit leaned into her side and closed his eyes. Ruby looked up at the wall where all their memories were tape drawings, the news article, the training certificate, and the word that meant the most, home. The sky was clear that day, the kind of blue that made everything feel safe. Ruby walked Bandit along their usual route, his vest on, leash in hand, both of them in rhythm. They reached the corner near the hardware store, the same place they always stopped for water. Bandit sat politely while Ruby pulled the bottle from her backpack. "Good boy," she said, pouring water into a collapsible bowl. He drank slowly, ears perked. Across the street, a car revved too loud. Bandit stiffened but didn't panic. Ruby smiled. "See, you're getting better." They continued down the block. As they approached the crosswalk, Ruby checked both ways. The sign flashed walk. They stepped onto the street. A scream, a screech of tires. Ruby turned too late. A black SUV blew through the red light. Bandit shoved her. She hit the pavement hard, scraping her hands, heart slamming in her chest. Bandit didn't make it across. The SUV clipped him, legs buckling, body flipping into the curb. "Bandit!" Ruby screamed, crawling to him. The SUV kept going. Someone shouted. A bystander ran after the plate number. Ruby dropped beside Bandit, her hands trembling. "Please, please wake up," she whispered. Bandit let out a low, broken whimper. "Blood. Too much blood." His side rose, barely. "He's alive." Someone yelled. An older man crouched beside her. "I'm calling the vet. Hang on." Ruby pressed her hands to Bandit's fur. "You saved me," she whispered. "You pushed me out of the way." An ambulance wasn't what came, it was a truck from the emergency animal clinic. They lifted Bandit carefully into the back. "Come with us," the vet tech said. "We'll do everything we can." Ruby climbed in, still shaking. At the clinic, the lights were bright. Too bright. They rushed Bandit behind swinging doors. A nurse handed Ruby a clipboard. "We need your permission." "Are you his legal owner?" "Yes," she whispered, signing fast. Her mom arrived minutes later, breathless. "What happened?" "He saved me," Ruby said, eyes glassy. "He saved me again." The vet came out wearing blood-stained gloves. "He has multiple fractures. Internal bleeding. We're prepping for surgery, but we don't know if he'll make it through the night." Ruby sat down hard. Her mom tried to hug her, but Ruby didn't move. "I want to see him." "He's not stable," the vet said. "Gently. I don't care." Minutes later, they let her in. Bandit lay still on the table. Tubes, machines, beeping slowly. Ruby pulled a stool close, resting her hand on his paw. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm not leaving." She reached into her bag and pulled out the drawing he'd carried for weeks. Her and him in the grass. She unfolded it with shaking hands and laid it beside his head. You have to wake up, she whispered. You're my story. You're my best friend. Bandit didn't move, but the monitor beeped steady. She leaned in close. Don't leave me, Bandit. Please, not you. The vet stepped back in. We're starting surgery. You can wait out here. Ruby shook her head. No, I'm staying. Her mom spoke softly. Let them work, Ruby. He'd want you to rest. But she didn't leave. She sat on the floor, clutching Bandit's drawing to her chest. She didn't cry. Not yet. The surgery lasted 3 hours. Every second felt like forever. Finally, the vet stepped out. He made it through, she said. But the next 24 hours are critical. Ruby looked up slowly. Can I stay? We'll bring you a chair, the vet said gently. That night, Ruby sat beside Bandit's crate in the recovery room. Just like the first night she ever brought him home. Only this time, it was his life that needed saving, and hers that was already saved. Morning light spilled through the clinic window as Ruby stirred in her chair, stiff from sleeping upright. Bandit was still there, hooked up to machines, but alive. His chest rose and fell in slow, steady rhythm. A nurse peeked in. He made it through the night. Ruby nodded, eyes still locked on Bandit. He's strong, the nurse added. So are you. Bandit didn't open his eyes, but his paw twitched when Ruby whispered, You stayed. Thank you. 2 days later, they brought him home. Bandit couldn't walk yet. His back legs were weak, wrapped in soft bandages. Ruby set up a bed in the living room, close to the window, so he could feel the sun. Neighbors dropped off cards, drawings, even toys. One little girl left a note that read, Thank you for saving her. You're the best dog ever. Ruby taped it to the fridge. Bandit slept most of the day. Ruby stayed near him, reading stories, humming softly, sometimes just watching him breathe. Miss Carol visited with a basket of treats and supplies. How's our boy? She asked. He's trying, Ruby said. He hasn't barked once. He doesn't have to, Carol smiled. He already proved everything. A week passed before Bandit tried to stand. He wobbled. Fell. Got back up. Ruby clapped gently. Yes, that's it. With time, he walked short distances. By week 3, he limped from the living room to the porch. Ruby walked with him, slow and careful. You're still my hero, she whispered. The town saw him differently now. People no longer crossed the street. At the park, a small boy asked, Is that the one from the news? Ruby nodded. That's Bandit. Can I pet him? Ruby smiled. Ask him. The boy knelt. Bandit didn't flinch. He licked the boy's hand. By spring, Ruby and Bandit returned to the shelter for another event. This time, they weren't guests. They were the reason people showed up. A banner hung across the front gate. In honor of Bandit, the dog who taught us to try again. The director spoke first. We almost gave up on him, but one girl didn't. People clapped. Ruby stepped up to the mic, Bandit by her side. I picked the dog no one wanted, she said, because I knew what that felt like. She paused. He didn't save me just once. He saved me every single day. Bandit sat tall, head high. She placed her hand gently on his back. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life telling everyone what love really looks like. The crowd stood. Tears, smiles, whispers of that's the dog filled the air. Months passed. Ruby started a school club called Second Chances, a place where kids who didn't fit in could talk, draw, and learn about rescue dogs. Bandit became their mascot. He walked into classrooms with his new vest, Healing in Progress stitched in bold yellow. Everywhere he went, kids gathered close. Some talked, some stayed silent. All of them felt safe. At home, Ruby made a scrapbook. Page by page, she glued photos. Bandit in the shelter, Bandit in quarantine, Bandit in the hospital, Bandit walking again. The final page was blank, she wrote. In black inks, still writing the story. One night, Ruby sat on the porch, Bandit beside her, both staring at the stars. "Do you think dogs understand forever?" she asked. Bandit didn't move. She reached down and brushed her fingers across his fur. Forever is just loving something even when it's hard. Bandit licked her hand. As the years went by, Bandit grew slower. His limp returned. His eyes dulled. But he never stopped following Ruby, never stopped waiting by the door, never stopped resting his head on her knee when she needed him. He was older now, the worst dog, the best soul. On a quiet morning, Ruby sat beside him as he lay in the sun, his breathing soft. "Hey," she whispered, "if you need to rest, it's okay." Bandit looked at her, just once, his eyes full of the same quiet understanding he'd given her since day one. She held him as he closed his eyes. The world went still, but the love didn't leave. A week later, the shelter unveiled something new, a bronze plaque at the front gate. In memory of Bandit, the dog who taught us love isn't always pretty, but it's always worth it.
Ruby stood in front of it, now taller, older,
stronger. She placed a single sock at the base. "He stole my sadness," she whispered, "and gave me back my voice." She turned toward the group of children gathered behind her, each holding the leash of a dog that had once been unwanted. "Let's go," she said. And they walked side by side into a world Bandit helped build one step at a time. Did this story touch your heart? Give it a thumbs up, share it around, and drop your location in the comments.